What is happening, everybody? I hope you're all having a wonderful day, and welcome on back to Mass Effect. So last episode, we secured Dr. T'Soni. We did end up destroying a Prothean ruin to the distaste of the Council, but mission complete. We saved her from Saren and took away a key player from his board, stopped him from potentially getting that advantage. So this episode, now with a major plot world taken care of, we do need to hit up the cast and crew, so let's see. Joker usually has an offhand comment about main missions, so let's see if he has anything for us.
I prefer gold to silver, for my medal. I figured you'd recommend me for one since I pulled your boots out of the fire.
Oh, I mean, of course. Right? At the very least, maybe even two.
If we present you with a medal, you'll end up sitting on stage listening to politicians make speeches for a couple of hours. Fun.
That's a good point. They'd probably make me shave, too. I spent the last 7 weeks working on this baby. No medal's worth that. So, Commander, why don't you tell me why you're really here?
I gotta be honest, Joker. You're going hard. That's 7 weeks. It's a good beard, my friend.
How's the Normandy performing? Is she everything they said she'd be?
She's the best ship in the fleet. If you've got a pilot who knows how to handle her. Balance.
Looking for us, huh?
The Normandy's probably too much ship.
I have to go.
Alright, so let's go. Oh, here's more codex for the gunnery station. Yeah, there's gonna be fresh codex that spawn up on the Normandy every now and then too, so make sure that as you're looking around, you'll check for galaxy navigations. Sometimes it'll be on these panels, sometimes there's some up the, like right here, or defense systems. That wasn't there before, but now it is. You have anything new for us, Presley? I think we already talked about aliens on the ship with him, so
Carry on, Presley.
we'll check in again with you later, periodically. Kaidan should have something new for that mission, and Liara is gonna be in the med bay, so we'll talk to Kaidan, then we'll talk to Chakwas, and then we'll talk to Liara. Get to know our new squad mate. Try and learn something about her, right? Benezia's daughter, potentially one of Saren's cohorts, so gotta interrogate her a little bit, see what she's all about.
Anything you need, Commander?
Just trying to get a sense of where the crew's at. Thoughts?
Is this an official evaluation, Commander? Or off the record?
It's always off the record when you talk to me.
Alenko, when it's just you and me, you can consider it off the record.
Absolutely.
That's a generous attitude. Okay.
There's no bureaucracy and red tape here.
Wrong with all this. This Saren is looking for records on some kind of galactic extinction, but we can't get backup from the Council? Sorry, Commander. There's writing on the wall here, but someone isn't reading it.
He's not wrong. All this stuff about extinction events and Saren, their top agent, they have no idea where he is, supposedly. They don't seem to be sending as many resources outside of making us a Spectre. It is a little funny that they are not as invested in this as we are. You'd think, right?
The Council doesn't want to believe anything's wrong. I'd call it human nature, but
I hear you. It just seems like a group that's been around as long as the Council should see this coming. Sorry if I got too informal. Protocol wasn't a big focus back in Bot.
Especially somebody who's sitting on the Council throne like they are, right? They know everything. They control 80% of the galaxy's species. And again, they didn't see this coming at all. Didn't even want to admit it was happening until we irrefutably proved it.
tell me about it.
Biotic acclimation and temperance didn't last past the airlock. To the kids they hauled in, it was brain camp. Sorry, hauled in is unkind. We were encouraged to commit to an evaluation of our abilities so an understanding of biotics could be compiled.
Encouraged with the carrot or the stick.
There are worse results of accidental exposure to element 0 in the womb. Beats the brain tumors some kids grew up with.
You'll notice the air quotes when he said accidental.
Is there some question about how you were exposed?
My mother was downwind of a transport crash. It was before there were human biotics, a little after the discovery of the Martian ruins. It only gets iffy around 63 when kinetics was running out of first-gen subjects. Until then, they'd relied on accidentals. A bunch of guys in suits show up at your door after school, and next thing you know, you're out on Jump Zero.
Well, that is one of the things about progress, right? Especially when you're heading into the galactic community and you don't have the ability to use biotics in your soldiers. You're going to want more, and at first you can do accidental exposure experiments, but eventually, if you're trying to catch up, it's part of the space race. You're gonna need to make some own, and like he said, some of it's a little dicey, but we can talk to him.
You know of any intentional exposures for certain?
No one knows. doesn't mean they didn't happen.
Yeah.
As big as the
It'd never be
exposures
known
were,
if it was.
hard to track down accidentals. It was different then. No one knew the potential, so there wasn't a lot of regulation. Anything Kinetics did was gold. I'm not saying they intentionally detonated drives over our outposts, but in retrospect, they were damn quick on the scene.
So they either knew it was going to happen and didn't prevent it, or they made it happen. Because if the crash is downwind on your colony, 2 hours later you got the men in black knocking on your door, hauling you off to brain cam to see if you got those biological advancements, you know what I mean? And I think even looking at reality, you wouldn't put that past anybody, right? I mean, look at all the medical experiments that have gone on and been funded in real life, with lesser stakes than a space race against other intergalactic species.
Jump Zero is Gagarin Station, right? What's it like?
Yeah, that's the official name. Biggest and farthest facility we had for decades. Right on the termination shock, the outer edge of the solar system. It's where they did all the Goose Chase FTL research before we caught on to using mass effect fields. It was a sterile research platform when I was there.
There were other kids in the same boat, right? At least you weren't alone out there.
That's true. We did have a little circle that'd get together every night before lights out. We didn't have much to do, though. It was a research platform then, and Kinetics kept Jump Zero off the extranet to prevent leaks.
And it's even more sketchy when you consider how biotics are made. So you can't expose somebody that's already alive to element 0 to get them to have biotic abilities. It has to specifically be with a baby inside the womb. So you're talking about detonating drive cores over colonies with pregnant women specifically, because you have to have that happen during pregnancy, not before or after. So that gets it all very morally grey, and there's no way anybody will ever want to be left holding that bag. So there's no way, even if they are intentional, there's no way that it would ever come to light, because either they'd cover their tracks gold enough to the point where nobody ever would, or the golden child of humanity advancing the space race would just never have anybody report on that, because humanity as a species of progression comes first, right? And if you were somebody who signed off on that, you're never letting that see the light of day.
Then you must have had plenty of time to get to know each other.
Yeah, we'd sit around and bull every night after dinner, play cards or network games. There was this girl named Rana, who had a little circle grow up around her. She was from Turkey, her family was very rich, but she was smart and charming as hell. Beautiful, but not stuck up about it. I think you'd have liked her.
Sounds like you
Sounds
did
like
a
she was
lot.
special to you.
She was. Maybe she felt the same, but things never felt together. Training, you know.
Seems like there's a little more to it than that.
Jump Zero is a long way from home. What was it like?
The grand gateway to humanity looks a lot better in the vids. But that's my own baggage, Commander. No bearing on this.
Baggage is baggage, and I'm glad to see you've got it stowed away, but we can still talk about it. It's not like we're strictly professional on this ship. It's a what do they call it? And it's an extraordinary mission, right? It's outside of normal bounds, so all those regulations on personal relationships don't really mean shit for us here, if you ask me.
Alenko, there's no regulation that says you can't be friends with your commander.
I appreciate that, Commander. I just don't want you to think that I'm a whiner. Besides, I've got my past squared away.
Considering that you get 10 out of 10 migraines pretty consistently thanks to your O2 implant, and I've never heard you grumble about it at all. In fact, the only reason I know it exists is because of Chakwa, so
Anything you
I
need.
certainly wouldn't classify Kaidan as a whiner.
What's your opinion on the last mission?
Dr. T'Soni. Seems like a sweet girl. Easy on the eyes.
Oh yeah?
I mean, if you like the bookish sort.
Any intentions there, Lieutenant?
No, Commander. Just art appreciation.
We'll talk another
Odd
time.
appreciation.
Commander?
I do be like that sometimes. Not gonna begrudge him his interests. Odd not to, right? When there's a pretty woman. Definitely take the Metajo replenish. Do you have anything to say about
Yes,
Liara?
Commander? Is there something you need?
You don't.
I should go.
Goodbye, Commander.
Alright, let's meet our new resident bookworm. I think the only other person anywhere close to her level of savant on this whole ship is probably Tali, and her specialty is engineering. Liara's specialty is kind of just everything. Specifically genetics, though, and history, of course.
Commander, Are you coming to check up on me?
You look much better. How are you feeling?
Dr. Chakwas assures me I am going to be fine. I was impressed with her knowledge of Asari physiology.
Oh, the doctor.
You're in good hands. Dr. Chakwas knows what she's doing.
I never properly thanked you for saving me from the Geth, Commander. If you hadn't shown up,
I'm just glad we got there in time.
so am I. I know you took a chance bringing me aboard this ship. I have seen the way your crew looks at me. They do not trust me. But I am not like Benezia. I will do whatever I can to help you stop Saren. I promise.
Remains to be seen, I think.
Promises are easy to make, but hard to keep.
I do not begrudge you your suspicions. I just hope in time you will come to trust me.
A lot of that depends on you.
Do you know why Benezia joined up with Saren?
I don't understand it. She was always outspoken about the need for the Asari to become more involved in shaping galactic events. Maybe she thought allying herself with Saren would somehow be for the greater good in the long run. At least I hope so.
There's a lot of things that go into that we'll realize later, but for now, that's the base view of that situation, right? Of course, she's gonna wish the best for her mother.
This hurts you, doesn't it?
None of this makes any sense to me. I have not spoken to Benezia in many years, but I know her, and this was not like her. Something changed.
This is our first real chance, too, to actually learn about the Asari. It's the first Asari we've spoken to that's actually allowed us to dig a little deep, so...
I'd like to know more about the Asari.
We were the first species to discover the Citadel. We were instrumental in forming the Council, and we always strive to be the voice of peaceful cooperation in galactic disputes. My people believe we are all part of a single galactic community. Each species contributes something to the greater whole. Although we seek to understand other species, it seems few of them seek to understand us. The galaxy is filled with rumors and misinformation about my people.
And them being the first species to find the Citadel and form that council is where a lot of their superiority complex comes from. Like I said a couple episodes ago, they kind of see themselves as the mothers of the galaxy, and everybody else is just children, and they're guiding them towards smoother sailing and all that stuff. They have a big superiority complex, and I imagine them being the first species to get on up to the Citadel and form all this has a huge part to play in all that. And we will get some more in this game and in other games that explain more about the Asari and how they're not actually as pure as they would like to believe, but for now, that's all we get on that.
Like what?
Most of the inaccuracies are centered around our mating rituals. My species is monogendered. Male and female have no real meaning for us. We still require a partner to reproduce. This second parent, however, may be of any species and any gender.
She says that the world is full of misconceptions about her people, but her people also don't really do anything to help themselves, do they? If you remember back on Korra's Den, every single stripper in there was an Asari, essentially, and look at the consort and her acolytes. A lot of them use their soft, cold, sweet, kind of disarming tones and those big blue eyes to, well, to make money. Let's just say it how it is, right? Most of them end up being some kind of sex worker. So she can say it's full of misconceptions, but at the same time, when you're all shaking your ass on bars and being consorts and madams of a comfort club, as they would like to say that it is, they wouldn't like to call it a whorehouse, even though that's exactly what it is. And you don't really do anything to stop that, do you? In fact, a lot of you people use it for their advantage. Which, fair enough, but then don't try and fluff it up, you know?
I don't understand. Your species can mate with anyone?
Mating is not quite the proper term, not as you understand it. Physical contact may or may not be involved, but it is not an essential element of the union. The true connection is mental. Our physiology allows us to meld with other beings. We can touch the very depths of their minds. We explore the genetic memory of their species. We share the most basic elements of their individual and racial identities. We then pass these traits onto our daughters. It is how we learn to grow as a species and how we develop a greater understanding of other races.
Basically, they can quite literally physiologically meld into your DNA and take pieces and combine it with themselves to make themselves pregnant and have offspring. You don't actually need to have sex, and since I'm sure you've noticed that every single Asari we've ever met is female and will maintain that way, it wouldn't really make sense if they needed to have sex to reproduce, right? Because, I mean, the species would have stopped where it was.
What happens to your partner after the union?
Every relationship is different. Some unions are a single encounter with both parents parting ways afterwards. Others can be more long-term. Sometimes an Asari and her partner will stay together for many decades.
And there is a theory here, because it's interesting that Asari looks so closely to humans, right? Aside from like the tentacle hair. They're quite close to humans, but there is a theory. I'm not sure if it's official or not, because I like to get all my lore from the video games themselves and the codex in said games. I don't like reading external novels and all that stuff. I don't really like when media does that. I don't want to read a book to understand the game I'm playing, and I love reading, but I don't think it should be essential. So you never actually see anything like that, outside of some artwork covers actually, but the theory would be that they don't actually look like they look, and it depends on what you are. So if you are a Turian, you see Asari as close to Turian. If you're a Krogan, you see them as close to Krogan. And if you're a human, well, you see them close to human. It's something they do with the mind melding, is the theory that I've heard passed around. And so she doesn't actually look like she is presenting to us. She just looks like that because it's through our eyes.
Do you know who Matriarch Benezia chose as her partner?
She rarely spoke of her partner. Though I know my father, if you want to use that term, was another Asari.
I thought you always needed another species to serve as one of the parents.
Like I just said, it wouldn't have got very far.
If we were not able to mate with our own species, we would have died out long before we ever mastered spaceflight and left our homeworld. Union with our own kind is no longer common, not for the purposes of reproduction. Most Asari believe it weakens our species. Asari daughters inherit racial traits from the father species. If both parents are Asari, then nothing has been gained, or so conventional wisdom would hold. I am what is sometimes called a pureblood, though no Asari would ever be cruel enough to say the word to my face. It is a great insult among my people. It is possible Benezia's partner was embarrassed by their union. She may have been too ashamed to publicly acknowledge me as her offspring.
And that goes to show another side of Asari society and the mentality towards everything, right? They don't have children for love, they don't have children for partnering or bonding. They do it because they want to advance the genetic code of the Asari. They're not here looking for love or family or companionship. It's actually condemned. There's other reasons that Asari on Asari mating is condemned, but we won't find out about that until Mass Effect 2. But that's the whole genetic mutation Yakshi thing, which we'll talk about when we get there to Mass Effect 2. But the fact that they view it as kind of like a taboo to be a pure-blood Asari because you've gained nothing from leeching off others' genetic code in the galaxy is quite telling too about how they view everything here. They very much like to be the most advanced, dominant species in the galaxy, and they see themselves as such.
Maybe she wanted to meet you, but couldn't. Something could have happened to her. Maybe she passed away.
You might be right. I hope you are. But I have no way to know for sure. Benezia never spoke of her partner. Whatever happened, it caused her too much pain to dwell on it. She raised me by herself, though that is not uncommon. Many Asari raise their children alone, particularly if the father species is short-lived. Often the partner will pass on long before the child reaches maturity.
For real, I mean, look at what she said when the common age of an Asari coming to adulthood is like 150 years old. Humanity ain't living that far. You have some long-lived species like Krogan. Krogan last for a long time, but Solarian, they're pretty short-lived, and I think Turians only get a couple hundred. An Asari can live for 1,000, so if it's not an Asari and a Krogan, the father species is not going to be around that long.
You Asari live for 1,000 years. What happens when your partner dies?
Few sapient species live as long as my kind. We have learned to take a philosophical approach to our unions. We do not focus on the inevitable loss of our partners. Instead, we enjoy the time we spend with them. And even after they're gone, a part of them lives on in us. The union is a connection that transcends both time and space.
There's actually a funny line between two Asari talking later about a bad marriage, and one of them is just like, we just wait a couple hundred years and then they die and you're free again and you can remarry.
I get the feeling you want to
we
ask
did
me
have something more to
Commander.
dig in with her because we didn't ask her about anything personal.
Tell me about yourself, Liara.
Me? I am afraid I am not very interesting, Commander. I spend most of my time on remote digs, unearthing mundane items buried in long-forgotten Prothean ruins.
You can kind of tell she's not used to social interaction too, the way she keeps looking away and looking down when we ask her questions. There isn't much eye contact going on. It's a cool little personality hint for her too that makes sense in character.
Sounds dangerous. And lonely.
Sometimes I would run afoul of indigenous life forms or stumble across a small band of mercenaries or privateers, but I was always careful. Until the Geth followed me to Artemis Tau, I never found myself in any situation my biotics could not handle. As for the solitude, well, that is one aspect that most appealed to me. Sometimes I just need to get away from other people.
I feel that. And you gotta imagine, since her mother's a very, very powerful matriarch, she's gotta have some biotic juice too.
You don't like other people?
I suppose it comes from being a matriarch's daughter. People expected me to follow in Benezia's footsteps. They wanted me to become a leader of our people. Matriarchs guide their followers into the future. They seek the truth of what is yet to come. Maybe that's why I became so interested in the secrets of the past. It sounds so foolish when I say it out loud. It sounds like I became an archaeologist simply to spite Benezia.
Not that unlikely. Rebellious teens and all that, right?
All children rebel against their parents. It's a natural part of growing up.
Aha, you share the wisdom of the matriarch, Shepard. That is exactly what Benezia said when I told her of my decision. But there was more to it than that. I felt drawn to the past. The Protheans were these wondrous, mysterious figures. I wanted to know everything about them. That is why I find you so fascinating. You were marked by the beacon on Eden Prime. You were touched by working Prothean technology.
Sounds like you want to dissect me in a lab somewhere.
What? No, I did not mean to insinuate. I never meant to offend you, Shepard. I only meant that you would be an interesting specimen for an in-depth study.
An interesting
that's even
specimen,
worse.
huh? And she also doesn't catch the social cues of when you're throwing little jabs and jokes.
Calm down, Liara. I was only joking.
Joking? Oh, by the goddess, how could I be so dense? You must think I am a complete and utter fool. Now you know why I prefer to spend my time in the field with data disks and computers. I always seem to say something embarrassing around other people.
You're doing just fine.
Just pretend this conversation never happened.
You're doing just fine, Liara.
Goodbye, Shepard.
We'll walk away and exit into the night, though. Now we know that we're an interesting specimen that you would like to run an in-depth study on, but not dissect in a lab. At least there's no dissection, right? I mean, always look on the bright side. Let's go talk to everybody else. I'm sure Garrus is going to have something for us, and it looked like Ash was already kind of butting heads with Liara, so I'm sure she has something too. Womanly competition, like I said.
Commander, good to see you.
You've been with CSEC a while. Have you seen much action?
Well, not as much as you, but yeah, I've seen some interesting things.
I'll bet you have. Anything in particular that stands out?
I remember this Solarian geneticist I was sent to investigate. That case was a bit disturbing.
What happened? Why were you investigating them?
I was tasked with tracking black market trade on the Citadel. Most of it harmless, nothing I needed to pursue. But during the course of my investigation, I noticed an increase in the trade of body parts, organs mostly. We usually get a few of those, but not the numbers I was seeing. We weren't sure if there was a new black market lab or if some freak was harvesting organs from citizens.
You've seen this before on the Citadel?
Every so often, some lab sells unwanted parts through the black market, but they're not as bad as the psychos. I remember this one Elcor diplomat we caught in my first year on the job. He was hacking people up and selling their organs. Had the station in a bit of a panic. But this case wasn't that clear-cut. Turns out there was more going on than we first realized.
You imagine situations like Jack the Ripper, but he had a galaxy to tear through and run into and hide.
So how did you figure out what was happening?
First, we got a hold of a sample and ran DNA tests. The weird thing was, the match led us to a Turian who was still alive and was very convinced he'd never lost his liver. After a bit of digging, I discovered this Turian worked briefly for Dr. Salion, the geneticist. So I went to his lab hoping to find evidence of cloned organ development, but there was nothing. No Solarian hearts, no Turian livers, not one Krogan testicle.
Krogan testicles is quite funny, and they're worth quite a lot, too. And the reason why is obviously because of the genophage. Krogans would definitely be trying to get testicle implants and testicle replacements to try and skirt the disease that they have. Of course, that doesn't exist, and it's not possible, but it wouldn't stop them from trying.
You're kidding, right? Why would anyone want Krogan testicles?
Some Krogan believe that testicle transplants can increase their virility, counteract the effects of the genophage. It doesn't work, but that doesn't stop them from buying. They'll pay up to 10,000 credits each. That's 40,000 for a full set. Somebody's making a killing out there.
And there's some biology information for you guys. The Krogans have 4 testicles, not just 2.
What did you do about the geneticist?
I brought in some of his employees for interrogation, to see if I could get them to talk. While I was interviewing one of them, I came across something suspicious.
You mean threaten? Was that really necessary?
Maybe, maybe not. Either way, it paid off. One of my detainees started bleeding profusely during the interview. We offered to patch him up, and he got frantic, freaked out. I ordered a full exam to find out what was going on. Our medics found incisions all over his body, some of them fresh. That was our big break. These people weren't just Dr. Salion's employees. They were test tubes. Walking, living test tubes.
Which is sick and perverse in all kinds of ways, man. Medicine in particular, and doctors, things like that being perverted and corrupt really rub me the wrong way. It really makes me uncomfortable. Like, medicine is supposed to be one of those pillars of society that is purely in existence to help people, right? Like the Hippocratic Oath, do no harm, all that stuff. So anytime you get a doctor, even in real life too, because this shit goes down in real life. Like organ harvesting, the whole angel of death situation with nurses killing patients and things like that. It's like extra disgusting when it's a doctor taking advantage of sick people or injured people that need assistance.
He was growing parts inside these people?
Exactly. He cloned their organs right inside their own bodies. Then he harvested them and sold them off. Most of the victims were poor. He'd pay them each a small percentage of the sales, but only if the organs were good. Sometimes an organ wouldn't grow properly, so he'd just leave it in them. Most of them were a mess, but only on the inside, hidden so nobody could see it.
And that's even more disgusting, just leaving the broken, diseased organ inside to create tumors and things like that. And just to rub extra salt on the wound here, he was doing it to poor people who didn't really have a choice to...
I hope he got what he deserved.
That's the worst part. We never caught him.
Why not? What the hell happened?
He ran, blew his lab, grabbed some of his employees, and headed for the nearest space dock. By the time I found out, his ship was already leaving. He threatened to kill his hostages if we tried to stop him.
But you went after him anyway, right?
I ordered Citadel Defense to shoot him down, but CSEC headquarters countermanded my order. They were worried about the hostages, worried about civilian casualties if the ship was destroyed so close to the Citadel. I told them those hostages were dead anyway, and just used them to make more organs, but they wouldn't listen.
And that is a great hint on why Garrus's problem with bureaucracy and the chain of command, that's where that comes from. And honestly, I agree with him. There's a reason why we don't negotiate with terrorists and why hostages doesn't automatically allow you to get whatever you want. And there's a reason as a people we had to adopt that kind of mindset, because the hostages are fucked anyways. That's a fate worse than death, right? Being stuck in a test tube, having organs grown inside you to create tumors and lesions and scar tissue and just harvesting them in and out. And there's no way he was going to let them all live by the end, right? They know who he is. They know where he went. They weren't getting out of there alive. They should have shut that shit down. I agree with him here.
No wonder you hated it there. Those idiots just let him fly away.
Yes, they did. I went to Palin and told him what I thought of him and his policies. He said if I didn't like it, I could quit. Well, I almost did. All they had to do was disable that ship, stop him from running. Maybe the hostages die, maybe they don't, but at least we stopped the bastard responsible for it all.
Correct. That's a tough choice, but at the end of the day, letting him go, like how many people has he done that to since? Like, yes, the hostages on that ship could have potentially died, but if you end up hurting those 10, 20, however many hostages, you stop him from hurting hundreds of people in the future. It's a very tough choice, and I'm not comfortable enough telling him he's right or that he's wrong. But to be honest, if I had to lean towards one, I would say that he's right there. That's a real hard call when all those innocent lives are in your hands like that, but if you look at the bigger picture, man, you gotta shut that shit down.
A few casualties is a small price to pay to stop someone like that.
He worded that differently
Yeah,
than I would have
exactly.
worded
I
that.
mean, those hostages might be wishing they died by now anyway. Just wish I could have stopped him. That's all.
The problem there is less about them wishing they died and more about all the people you could have avoided being involved in that in the future. There's a problem I always have with... So, the Punisher is my favorite Marvel character. And there's reasons for that. And one of the reasons is... heroes like Batman, Daredevil to a lesser degree because he actually hurts them, but Batman is a great example, and I'm probably going to piss off any comic book lovers here when I say this, but Batman doesn't finish the job. When Batman flies in and punches people and then locks them up, and then 2 weeks later, 2 years later, 2 months, they get out and go on a massacre and kill hundreds of people, all of those people that die in the future, while he's moseying around in the skyline waiting to catch them again, that's all on Batman, because he could have prevented that. He literally had it in his hand, and he chose not to. And all those people that get murdered, robbed, put into slavery, all that stuff, they probably spent their last moments thinking, why didn't Batman just twist your head off? The Punisher stops that. He saves people for good. That's a big issue I have with Batman's philosophy.
Do you have any idea what happened to Dr. Salion?
I sent out feelers from time to time, hoping to find something. I thought I'd found him a while back. He changed ships and changed his name to Dr. Hart, his idea of a joke, I guess. I told the military, but they weren't convinced it was him. I got the transponder frequency for his new ship, but I just can't get anyone to check it out.
Lucky for you, you're on board with the Spectre, who's very invested in that kind of shit.
I'll check out the coordinates when I get a chance.
I was hoping you'd say that. But Commander, take me with you when you go. If it's Salion, I want to be there when you find him.
Count on that, Garrus. You'll definitely be there. Let's talk to Ash.
Oh, before I go, you said you're serving with Commander Shepard now? We saw him on the news here. He's
Uh-oh.
cute. Later, sis.
Busted.
Tell me you didn't hear that.
Sure did.
Afraid I did.
The way he said that.
One of my sisters. That's Sarah, the youngest. Surprised to see you here, sir. Thought you'd be chatting up, what's her name? T'Soni?
Jealousy is unbecoming, Ash.
Liara, why would you think that?
Scuttlebutt says you got a bit of a thing for her. I could understand why. The crew's off limits with the regs against fraternization. And at least she looks like a woman.
At least she looks like a woman. Oh, the subtle little jabs. It's like I said, womanly competition, but jealousy is unbecoming.
You think I'm interested in Liara because she's the only one I'm allowed to date?
So you are interested in her?
Not quite what I said, but you can do that if you
Plus,
want.
it could be politics. Alien diplomat's daughter, us under orders to make nice with the bug-eyed monsters. What's up? You didn't come by to eavesdrop on family mail.
Your family seems to be important to you.
Yeah, we've always been close. Me and my sisters especially. With Dad on duty so much, I had to help Mom raise them.
Did your father serve with the fleet?
Yeah, took any crap posting he could get that offered space time. You know what? He worked his ass off trying to get recognized, but he never made it above serviceman 3rd class. He was real proud when I met Chief. First thing he did was salute.
It's a hell of a man.
What about your mother? You haven't mentioned her.
You must know what military wives are like. Strong because they have to be, able to raise kids while Dad's away on a 6-month cruise. She has a degree in planetary geology. She and Dad both wanted to see new worlds. She gave up her career to raise us, though.
And that's a hell of a woman. You come from good stock, Ashley Williams.
You have more than one sister? Sounds like a big family.
Yeah, I'm the oldest, then Abby, then Lynn. Sarah's the youngest. She's still in high school. With 4 girls, Dad used to say he felt more outnumbered at home than on maneuvers.
Where did you grow up?
All over. Same as you, I expect. We transferred a half a dozen times before I finished grade school. You go where personnel command sends you, right? I guess that's why I'm so tight with my sisters. We'd have to leave all our friends every 2 or 3 years.
It makes sense that she's from a big family like that, right? Just the way she carries herself. She almost seems a little like the spacer equivalent of the farmer's daughter. Independent, strong, able to mean mug, but also like feminine on the side.
I was an only child, but I get the idea. At least one of my parents was always on duty.
Yeah, military families, eh? With schedules like that, it's a wonder we ever have kids anymore. Things were tense between Sarah and me for a while. Then we bonded.
Sounds like a story. Feel like sharing?
Sarah got herself a boyfriend who wanted to go faster than she did, Mike. I didn't think he was a bad kid, just pushy. Lynn would send me these worried vidmails, and I'd tell her to relax.
Where were you when this was going on?
I was on active duty. Sarah's graduating high school this year. This was only a couple of years back. They were on Amaterasu. At the time, I was assigned to Chernobog. Same cluster, but a dozen LY away. Close enough to talk regularly, too far to make it back in an emergency. I couldn't afford a fast packet flight.
Sounds like that situation didn't last.
Mike thought they'd go for a romantic walk in the woods, because he figured it was past time they did the deed.
The woods is a hell of a place to try and get that done.
Mike face first into a tree and left. Didn't have a scratch on her. Good thing Mom and Dad had us all learn some kind of self-defense. I took emergency leave and walked Sarah to school for a few days.
You said all of your sisters learned self-defense?
Lynn did pistol practice, but didn't like it. She's kind of nervous. Sarah took Aikido. Abby decided to learn the sword. She always was a little weird.
The
Likes
sword?
big skirts and tops you have to tie her into. They do great things to her figure, though.
A sword is a hell of a weapon, especially if you pair it with biotics.
So, what did you learn?
One of Dad's friends taught me Marine hand-to-hand.
You traveled all the way home to walk your sister to school.
It was only a dozen light years, like a day's cruise. It's not like I was going to Earth or something. My last day out, Mike was waiting for us. Sarah had told her friends, so everyone at school knew what he did. He wasn't happy. I wanted to snap him in half, but Sarah gave me this look, this let me handle it, I need to do this alone look. She kept her cool, God bless her, as he screamed in her face. She just let him vent. Then he tried to punch her. I swear, she just flowed around him. Next thing I
Gotta be
knew,
the
he's
Aikido.
face down on the sidewalk, and there's blood everywhere.
Aikido is like a less effective version of judo. It's a lot of tosses and using someone's momentum against them. It was originally designed to disarm swordsmen, I think, when you lose your sword. That was what Aikido was meant for. Someone's trying to slash at you, you redirect their energy and toss them over to try and get the sword out of their hand. That was what Aikido was made for.
That's unbelievable. Sarah must be as good as you.
Better. I'm more or less a straight-up puncher. When he swung, she wasn't there anymore, and he fell. She helped him stop the bleeding and had me call an ambulance. She told the paramedics he fell. Before they took him to the hospital,
He did, technically.
Mike touched Sarah's arm. I thought he was gonna end up on the ground again. But he hung his head, whispered, "I'm sorry," and started crying. And she hugged him. The Williams women are a decisive bunch, Commander. We do things when we're ready. Not before, not after.
Noted.
Your sister's something else. But you didn't mention your father at all. Was he on deployment?
Dad always wanted to serve in space, but he wanted us to have real ground under our feet. He'd say, space is beautiful, but you can't raise a family there. I cannot rest from travel. I will drink life to the lees. All times I've enjoyed greatly, have suffered greatly, both with those that loved me and alone. For always roaming with a hungry heart, much have I seen and known, cities of men and manners, climates, councils, governments.
See, how can you not like Ash when you learn about her family and how family-oriented she is and how traditional her upbringing was? It's always good. Yeah. Ash definitely rubs me the right way as a character. That's why I end up defending her so much when people just blast her with the whole space racist thing. Not at all is she like that.
I didn't know you liked classical literature.
Ulysses was my dad's favorite poem. Every time he shipped out, he recorded me reading it. He had a dozen versions when he retired.
Does he still like it?
I sure hope so. I read it to his grave every time I go home. Dad passed on a few years back. He's probably still watching, though. So behave.
So behave.
You mean from wherever we go after death?
Thought she was convinced that I was into Liara.
He's with
Why
God.
would I have to behave?
That's not a problem with you, is it? That I believe in God?
Definitely not. Everybody's religion is a piece to their own, and to be honest, when you go through the kind of stuff that we're going through, She'll make a point here in a second about how can you see space and not believe there's something bigger at play here, and honestly, I'm inclined to agree with all that.
You know that old saw, there's never an atheist in a foxhole? I've been in a lot of foxholes.
Yeah, I guess you have. I've met a few people who are really weirded out by my faith. Because I work in space, I can't believe in a higher power? Jeez. Hello, have you people looked out the window? How can you look at this galaxy and not believe in something?
I agree.
I should get back to my duties. Didn't mean to take up so much of your time.
Fair enough.
What's your opinion on the last mission?
Not sure I buy Dr. T'Soni's story about her and her mom not talking. They're family, right?
Somewhat, she has a right to be skeptical there, especially with her family upbringing, where they're all so close and tight-knit.
Not everyone's as close to their family as you are.
Yeah, that's true. It's funny, I never really thought about that before. Too bad those ruins got destroyed. I mean, they lasted thousands of years. That's impressive.
You see, she's not completely bullheaded and closed off.
We'll talk later, Williams.
She was skeptical about something, we gave her an answer, and then she was like, yeah, you know, I never really thought about that, you're right. It's the sign of an open-minded individual. Now we can ask him a personal inquiry.
Why did you become a mercenary?
Lots of reasons.
Such as?
I'd like to expand on that.
I needed to get out of our system. I needed to eat. I needed to survive.
Why not stay and help your people?
I tried to help. That's why I had to leave.
What happened?
I was betrayed. I was head.
Who was stupid enough to betray your big ass, Rex?
We were trying to restore order after the war, but the other tribes were against us. They followed Jared, one of the few warlords who survived the war with the Turians. But he was old, and so were his ideas. He wanted to continue the war. He wanted us to fight. Turians, Solarians, each other. It didn't matter who, as long as we were fighting.
And that's what happens in a society with warlord mentality and honor culture, right? There's always another monster to hunt. There's always another cause. You feel more at home in the chaos than you do at peace. It's like that old adage, right? It's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. It's kind of like you can't really take that out of them.
What did you want?
I just wanted Jared to shut up, to stop his ranting. I wanted him to stop leading the tribes astray. But he couldn't understand how much things had changed.
Which is an understandable perspective too, right? The Genophage, the Krogan rebellions being snuffed out, the Rachni Wars.
Sure we couldn't replenish our numbers.
Jared had seen some shit.
I told them all to forget about war. We needed to focus on breeding, at least for one generation. And for a while, we were getting through. Some of the tribes started coming around.
And Rex is right on the money of what his people need to. Rex has his mind right.
I take it the warlord didn't appreciate that.
No, he didn't. He arranged a crush with the tribes. A meeting on neutral ground. He wanted to talk. We met at the Hollows, near the graves of our ancestors. The skulls of our dead laid bare to remind us where we come from and where we all go. It's as sacred as any Krogan place can be. Violence is forbidden.
It certainly sounds like a trap to me.
It sounds like a trap to me. You must have suspected as much.
I did. But when your father invites you to a crush, well, there are some laws that even we hold sacred.
That's a hell of a bombshell. That goes to explain why he called the family armor a piece of crap, but he wanted it regardless, right? His dad was the one that betrayed him.
Jared was your father?
He was. Until that day. We talked, but we didn't get anywhere. When it was clear that I wouldn't join him, he gave the signal. His men leapt from the graves of our ancestors like Krogan undead. The few that were loyal to me died quickly. I escaped with my life, but not before I sank my dagger deep into my father's chest. That is why I left, and that's why I'll never go back.
A whole lot of baggage. Man, I'd love to know what was stupid enough to give Rex those scars on his face, because those are some deep wounds. Somebody took a chunk out of him.
You must have family other than your father. Don't you miss them?
No. Now that I have my family's armor again, there's nothing left for me.
Well, I'm glad we helped to give you some closure.
So long, Rex.
Shepard.
Yeah, Rex is cool as hell, man. All the cast and crew here is super cool. It's super diverse cast with their own comings and goings and things they love, things they're interested in, the different backgrounds that influence their decision makings and their personalities. I love all this stuff. I know this one's running a little longer than usual, but we just got one person to talk to left, and it's worth it, man.
Shepard, I'm glad you're here.
See more Chipper.
Good to see you smiling again, so to speak.
I'm sleeping much better now. I guess I'm getting used to how quiet your ship is.
That's good.
I still think a lot about my pilgrimage, though. I know Steren's our top priority, but with all the worlds we go to, I was hoping to find something to bring back to the flotilla.
Maybe I can help you with that.
We've still got a long way to go. You'll find something to take back.
Yes, but it cannot just be some derelict ship my people can use for salvage. It has to be more than that. There's a lot expected of me.
What's so special about you?
It's my father. He's the senior member of the Admiralty Board. He's one of only 5 people who can overrule the decisions of the Conclave for the good of the migrant.
You didn't mention that we had basically a princess on board.
For the lives of 17 million people. Our entire race is in his hands, and I'm his only child.
It's also interesting to note that even the royal people, so to speak, of the Aquarians aren't above being sent on their pilgrimages, which is very dangerous. Everybody is sent. They all have to prove themselves. No exceptions.
So are you some kind of heir to the Quarian throne or something?
No, it doesn't work that way. My father's position isn't hereditary. I'll probably never serve on the Admiralty Board myself. Officially, I'm just the same as any other citizen. But it doesn't work that way in practice. People have always treated me differently because of who my father is.
You must get all kinds of special privileges.
I probably had it easier than most growing up, but it's not all good. People like my father have enemies, and they're not above using me to get to him.
And the pressure to live up to the reputation of Daddy.
It must be tough on you.
My people place a high value on family and ancestry. There's an unspoken expectation that I'll live up to my father's example. Everyone's waiting for me to do something great on my pilgrimage, something that will forever change our lives for the better. If I don't, it's like I failed, and that reflects badly on both me and my father.
Well, failure is not an option here, so I think saving the future of every living being in the galaxy might be right up your alley as a welcome home gift.
The work you're doing here is more important than anything any Quarian has ever done before.
Yes, I know. But you have to understand Quarian culture. We're a very insular society. The events beyond the flotilla don't much matter to the average citizen. Our greatest dream is that one day we'll return to our homeworld and drive out the Geth. But even if we stop Saren, that's not going to happen. There's still millions of Geth behind the veil. Until they're gone, our exile will continue.
What would you need to bring back to make everyone happy?
Something that would help us better understand the Geth. They've changed significantly since the exile. They've continued to evolve. We've done our best to study them, but it's not easy. They're very reclusive. Until recently, they never went beyond the borders of the Veil. And all the Geth we run into now are under Saren's control. We'd need to find Geth operating on their own, independently. But I don't want this to get in the way of our mission, Shepard. First, we stop Saren. Then I'll worry about my own problems.
And her priorities being on so stray is so incredible for how young she is, man. We'll certainly be keeping our eye open for things to do with the Geth, and I wonder if we can dig in a little more on the situation with her father.
What was your father like?
It wasn't easy growing up as the daughter of one of the Admiralty. Even before he joined the board, he was a prominent figure. People looked to him for leadership. He had to set an example, and he expected the same of his daughter. Plus, he was pretty strict, a military man through and through. He never allowed me to settle for anything less than excellence. As a kid, I sometimes felt like he was pushing me too hard.
Pretty normal.
But now I'm old enough to appreciate what he taught me. The world doesn't owe us anything. If we want something in life, we have to earn it.
Where was your mother in all this?
Mother was around, but she always seemed to kind of blend into the background. Almost like she was overshadowed by my father. He tends to do that to people. She passed on about 5 years ago. Some airborne virus that swept through the fleet. Happens sometimes when the filters start to break down. I think my father took it pretty hard. After she was gone, he became even more focused on his work. I think that was his way of dealing with the grief.
Sounds like a tough upbringing. You don't resent your father at all?
Like I said, it wasn't easy. My father's not the kind of person you bond with, and he wasn't around all that much. Too busy. People counted on him, and he took his duties seriously. Even when he was around, he always seemed a bit distant, like his mind was always somewhere else. Come to think of it, I can't ever remember seeing him smile. Not once. It's like he was always weighed down by all that
That's a lot to put on a kid, man.
I mean, I know he cares about me, but he never really showed it, not in the usual way. I guess the best thing I can say about my father is that I respect him.
Which is a lot rougher than
I want to talk about something else.
implication of the statement itself. You would want to say caring, nurturing, loving, look up to him, any kind of things, right? The only thing being able to say about a paternal figure is that you respect them. I mean, respect is important, but that leaves a lot to be desired, and she's had a lot of weight on her shoulders her whole life, which, honestly, as rough as that might be, that's probably a lot of the reason why she's as responsible as she is and why her head is screwed on so tight, but still, it's a lot of burden to bear as a child. Anyways, we've been going for 51 minutes, so I'm going to get out of y'all's hair and wrap this one on up, so thank you for watching, everybody. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe, leave a like and a comment. If you want to support the cause and help improve the channel, please do check out those links in the description below. Otherwise, stay tuned and I'll see you soon with more Mass Effect. Take care, everybody. Have a great day. Peace.